Welcome to another Maid Training Academy video. Maid Training Academy provides online classes to become a certified professional cleaner for as little as $100. For more information about course topics and enrollment, visit maidtrainingacademy.com and please help us by clicking the like button below and subscribing. This video is on mixing your mop water, then wringing out your mops, and then a quick demonstration of mopping the floors. Again, what seems simple seldom is. People will mix mop water a bunch of different ways, but there is a best way for sure. And so this short video tackles that project. Now, the first thing I want to show you here is that the mop bucket is typically mixed at the kitchen sink. But when you do take it over and put it on the floor and out of your way, you do need to put it on preferably a couple of mop heads or on at least some rags, because if you just put the plain bucket down on the floor, it can pick up the water from the sink where you're mixing it and transfer that to the floor. A lot of times you'll have a mop bucket in kind of, again, out of the way location, which means the mop bucket could sit there for quite some time, and it will absolutely leave a ring on the floor. Sometimes the ring will go away. It's more like a quick water vapor mark, but often it'll actually be permanent and it'll ruin the floors. And so it's just best to always put that on something. And the mops work better because they are thicker. So in this case, again, it's starting off that way. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mix the mop water solution, and you always want to use an exact measurement. Now, this is a dispensing measurement that you see. It goes right in that little reservoir to get an exact measurement, so many ounces in that reservoir, and then you add it to your mop water first. Don't put your mops in first, because then you're putting the concentrate right on top of the mop, and that's not good. So after you put it in the mop water, then you mix it up either by hand, or you can actually use a couple of mops. Now I'm going to stop it here because it's important to note that when you do wring out your mop heads, there's a couple different ways you can do them. There are some preferred methods, but again, we're going to show you two of the most common ones that are there. So the first thing you do, of course, we're using what's referred to as a flat mop. It's probably the most popular version used in commercial as well as residential maid service. And so the first thing you're going to do is when you lift it up is you are going to fold it over. And so I'll hit the play button again here. So when you fold over, you're going to wring it down. And this is a little easier on the hands, but it moves a lot of the water out because you're moving it away. And so if you look at that again, what we did is we folded it. And when you started, we started at the tops, not the end, but at the fold. And then we rolled it down until you got to the very end. Now again, as we ended that, and I'll hit the play button here again, then the last thing you do, even though a lot of water came out, is you're going to twist it, and you're going to twist it hard until it's even with your hands. So you're reaching over, and then you throw it out. Now what she did there, and I'm going to stop it, is what she did there, she also threw it on the floor as a demonstration. If you throw a mop that's been just recently wrung out on the floor, and it lands with a splat, and water comes shooting off the edges, you did not wring that mop nearly good enough. And so what the challenge here is you do not want to put a lot of water on floors. A lot of people customers as well as maid companies will not even use this method on hardwood floors because it does put a lot of water on the floor even when you wring it out well. The other method is the spray and then mop. That's used primarily for hardwood floors, and we certainly do that as well too. But a lot of customers, if they want their floors, if it gets a lot of activity and a lot of movement, then they will go with the more traditional method of mopping floors, which this is. But again, you've got to get all that water out. All right, I'm gonna hit the play button again, and then we're gonna show another method. And this other method is actually a little harder because you're wringing it out more, and that's a little harder. It's like an Indian burn. Your hand will get a little worn out a little bit more by this next method. But with people who have smaller hands, they tend to like this a little bit better. So let's take a look at how the next method is. So she's going to bring it up. She's still going to fold it halfway, start at the fold. Then she's going to fold it like that, and then she's going to go down and then wring it out. I think this is a little bit harder on hands. But again, just whatever you feel is best. But now you watch this. When she throws it down, even though you did a pretty good job, look how the water splattered out. Did you see that? How it splattered out? You could probably see a little better when it was out back a little bit further. But that's the difference between the two. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mop. Now, what you do with these style mops is you do want to stand on it because that's going to be like a Velcro, so it'll stick to that mop head. Okay, and then you're going to go in the corners. And here's the key. You're going to go with the slat grains. See how the boards, in this case, it's kind of angled. Right? Now, I'm going to stop just a second. So you'll see that, you know, how the boards are laid. They're laid here at a diagonal. Okay, but you have to mop side by side with the slats. If you do it the other way, especially on older floors, you're going to, at each one of those slats is going to catch the dirt, the water, anything on there. And so it's a classic mistake. I've seen people who've been, I've been a cleaner for 10, 15, 20 years, and they do it wrong. So you need to do that with the direction of the slats so you're not catching it. Now you'll also see here where we stopped it, you'll see that she did pull the drape out of the way. So when you're mopping, like with vacuuming, you are moving things out of the way to get to the entire section. The other thing you want to keep an eye on is see how she does the S move. And what I mean by the S is she's going to turn it as she moves away. So she's not going left, 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 right, left, right, left, right. When she goes to the right, she's going to turn it so it continues to move. And that's going to continue to bring whatever you're getting off the floor toward yourself to get it off the floor. So I'm going to hit the play button again here. Can she move that drape out of the way with one hand and then see how she's turning it and then turning it again and turning it again. That way you're pulling everything with you. And when you do find a tough spot on the floor, you don't have to bend down. You can step on it. That's a great move to get that little piece of whatever stuck on there back. And you see how she's tapping it? Because sometimes if you didn't do a good job, and I'm going to stop it there. If you didn't do a good enough job vacuuming, you will pull a lot of the dirt and hair and whatever else with you when you're mopping. You don't really want to do much of that. You'll do some for sure, but that's where you're like, well, maybe I didn't vacuum well enough or broom well enough. So that's why that step A can never be skipped. And B, it can lead to not doing a very good job on the floors because you can't just mop, okay? And so what you see now, I'm going to hit play again. Now you'll see what she's doing. She's going to go just left and right without turning it. And you can see, because she's doing it wrong by purpose, we ask her to do that. By going left and right, you can see all you're doing is moving whatever you're picking up to the left and right. So once you stop to the right and go left, whatever you pushed that way is going to stay there. And you push it to the left, and you stop and then come away from it, whatever you have on the left side is going to stay there. That's why you have to turn it. I'm going to hit the play button again now. And watch her, if she just goes left and right, you're just pushing it left and right. So you've got to be able to turn it just like she did like that. And you got to check your mop head periodically. I'm going to stop right there. So you have to check your mop head periodically as soon as it gets, as soon as you can tell it's dirty, you got to replace it because otherwise you're just smearing dirty, mop all over the floor that, could actually make, the job even tougher. So she's pulling this one off a little bit quicker, but just more as a demonstration. I'm going to hit play again. And once you're done, you're going to put it to the side, grab a new mop, put it back on the floor, make sure it's firmly attached, center it. And if you don't center it, stop right there while she's standing on it. If you don't center it, it's going to leave the corners hanging over the mop, and that can scratch the floors. You got to be real careful not to cause damage. A lot of things you can do in a house that cause damage, but you got to make sure it's centered. And once it's centered, you want to step on it so it sticks to the mop. So that the mop head itself, the metal part has a little Velcro-y, sticky, grabby stuff on that side, which does attach itself to the microfiber mop head. So after she's done, hit play again, and then you continue on. Again, turning it and 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 looking. So that's basically, a great review on mixing your mop water. Make sure your bucket's on some rags or preferably some mops. And when you mop, you're doing the S maneuver to pull all that stuff with you and back toward yourself, tapping your mop periodically. And that's how you mop a hardwood floor as well as anything that's a tile floor. It's that same method.